Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal podcast for Kaitou Sentai LupinRanger versus Keisatsu Sentai PatoRanger. I am Vashi V, and I'm joined with.
Henshin, we didn't hear anything from that.
Now,
Yes, now.
then I'm here.
The Little King.
And Rai. And I can already tell this is gonna be a rough one.
Decade's not
Warning
here.
to everybody. A bit
Go
screwy
ahead.
on my side, so if I'm not talking, my bad.
Decade's not here, so I myself am taking over notes, so I hope I don't mess any of it up. Um, so this is for episode 21. The episode picks up where the last one left off with the Lupin Rangers walking into the cafe with Noel sitting in there. Kyrie calls him Lupin X, Umiko calls him Patron X, and Tuma says it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
Goody is happy to see him, flies over to him, and, for lack of a better term, high fives him. Noel points out news of their deeds has reached even France and gives them a gift, specifically to Umika-chan. And it is a collection pieces from the previous episode. Kyrie is shocked about it, but Noel points out that he did say that he was going to give them a present on his advance notice. They point out that he is helping them, but working with the police. Which point Noel says that sometimes he is a glittering aloof thief, the other time he is a cop. But truly he is Takeo Noel, and that he is on their side, and then asks Kogure to confirm it. Everybody turns around to see Kogure just standing there. Goody freaks out, but Noel calms him down, and Kogure points out that it is his fault that the VS Changers went to the police, and that Noel is the one modifying the collection pieces and works for the Lupin family as an engineer. Thoughts?
Lupin family is playing both sides because they figure. I think it's an accident that the first collection pieces managed to get to the police. I'm thinking that the Lupin family might think, hey, if we have two teams both fighting the Gangler, then we can take them down twice as fast. Also, I would not be surprised at all if Lupin or Sane Lupin himself showed up at one point. And I find it interesting that Noel can predict exactly when and where Kogure will show up, maybe.
Yeah, Noel is definitely the interesting one. And let me just say this now, because I'm probably going to sound like a broken record a lot this time.
You cut out there after broken
So-
record.
His personality.
Hey, King.
Yeah?
You cut out after broken record, and then we caught every other word.
Sorry, my connection's a bit messed. I love this guy. The fact that there's so guy, I want to know just anything and everything. Start to that.
Okay, so first of all, Takao went to work for the police to see what collection pieces they had, but then they were shipped off to the police without his knowledge to the fighting force. And then second, he didn't predict where Kogure would appear. He was looking in that direction when it happened.
I still like the idea that he knows when it's going to happen. I still like that idea.
Alright.
I just wish we could have seen it.
Well, working under the possible theory that Kogure is Gosh, this could lead into, like, Noel knowing more than he's supposed to.
Actually, I'm more on the lines of Kogure is Zamigo, maybe.
Based on what?
Just yes. I definitely think Kogure is probably a gangler. I just don't know for sure which one.
I mean, I could see it under the idea of Zamigo seems to be working on his own intentions, possibly against Dogranio. But the problem is that he has very much a different personality than Koguri has.
My issue with him being Zamigo is the fact that Zamigo already has a human form.
Oh, that too.
You
It
got
looks.
me there. Yeah, that's definitely important.
It has a white. He has a white stripe in his hair, a la Taiga.
Which is still amazing, by the way, and we need to see more of him. Um, I I think Tuma's reaction here was the best one, with them going, "Oh, it's Lupin X. No, it's Pet X," and this is no, it doesn't matter. We don't like you.
Oh, I forgot to mention that I love the fake out with handing the gift over, and Kyrie goes for it, and he like just ducks around him, like not for you.
Right. And it's like I like the fact that like because Noel, calls out each of their name in by specific, and it's Kairi-kun, Tuma-kun, and then Umika-chan. I was like, that's a nice stab at the other two, because we already know Umika's very, very trustworthy when it comes to like new people and interactions with people and stuff like that. So for her to get that kind of remark is more one of those him looking at him going, I know y'all don't like me. Um, it everything about this is involving getting the information from what little bit we get in this scene from Noel about who he is and all this stuff is just him just being over the top. I'm just gonna talk in riddles. With the I'm a cop. No, I'm a thief. But truthfully, I am me. Guess my intentions.
I'll keep you guessing for at least half the remaining series.
And also the unnecessary backflip. I get it's a character thing, but it's one of those like, why did you do a backflip in a restaurant?
To show off how cool he is, obviously. And because his actor loves parkour.
Let's go.
Parkour. Next thing, Gauche and Desher are arguing over Patran Lupin X, over whether or not it was Patran X or Lupin X. And
It was both.
both are accurate. But Dogranio tells him to shut up and then just says, call him X.
Which is what we're gonna keep calling him.
Exactly. So from now on, I'm just, unless it's specifically required for the scene, I'm just going to call him X. Desher offers to look for him, and Dogranio says to leave him be, as something amusing may rise from it.
After
Because
all,
we have
Dogranio's just in this because he's bored.
right, quite literally. This is the Genis mindset from Juoger of I don't care. Does not affect me in the slightest.
I just hope Degranio turns out to be a better final villain than Genis was.
I think it's already been set up for it, with the one thing that he's actually done in the show.
Yes, because he's actually officially done one thing in the show.
And it was a way better thing than anything Genesis did. Genis, whatever.
Right. Well, really, all Genis did up until the final battle was oversee the game and go, here, give them a medal. And then warp Misao.
And when it's finally time for him to fight, he turned out to be made up of a bunch of mitochondria or something.
That were literally just the base grunt villains. So unless he
I
unless
remember that, and they're like, "Oh, you have an identity complex. Well, then we'll have to ultra kill you."
And then he kills his most loyal member, who had been undefeated up to that point because she knew his secret.
Hashtag
As she
Narya
was
deserves
saying,
much better.
I can't believe you've been harboring this secret. It must be so painful. And she's like sympathizing with him. He's like, lol, bitch, die.
I mean, like, yeah, it's like that was horrible. It's like, because here it was, his whole fear through all of this was that somebody would find out and basically turn on him for it.
And the one
And
person
it
who
was
found out
who
didn't.
now didn't, and he killed her anyways.
Bottom line is, Dogranio can
I
only
don't
be a
need
better
to act
villain.
logically.
But yeah, so far Dogranio's a much better villain. Anyways, he asks about his young successors, plural, which I missed that initially. I was confused.
Yeah, I think he's just referring to the ganglers who are trying.
Well, yeah,
to take his
he
throne.
is. When I watched it the first time, I didn't realize that there was an S on it. I'm like, what is this? Your kid?
Oh no.
I was confused because I'm like, your kid's an idiot. Deshra points out that Gabuto, which is the monster of the week, is about to carry out his plan. Switches over to Gabuto scrubbing stuff into a dam with a very large toothbrush. Switches back to the LupinRangers, who are looking at the VS vehicles and asks if Noel made them. Kogure points out that the ones that they're currently using, the main ones, were passed down through the Lupin family. Noel made Cyclone and heard that some of the police, here the police had some, so he infiltrated and used them. Toma says that Noel armed him, and Noel just kind of smiles and says, my bad. They went to the fighting force without his knowledge, and he thinks there is a connection to the Ganglers due to Crane and Drill. This is worded very oddly, but I'm assuming this is one of those he misplaced them, and or he accidentally sent them to the Gangler.
Or it could be that the ganglers happened upon them, like,
Right,
somehow.
that's why I'm like leaning more towards the he misplaced them. That is the only thing that makes sense unless they somehow got into Lupin's house. In theory. But that's why he came in person to the GP, so that's why he came in person. And GP no longer has any collection pieces aside from the ones that they use in battle. And then we get the opening.
So we can no longer count on France HQ. Good job, everybody.
Yeah, the global police don't seem the most competent. I noticed that ever since they're like, whoops, a gangler resurrected right inside our lab and blew off the roof. Our bad.
France HQ.
In real quick, in defense of the GP on that one, Ghost can teleport.
True.
And France HQ has been competent, although that might have been entirely because of Noel.
It might have been.
Oh, I firmly believe that everything involving the Lupin collection at this point is Noel's fault. Either on purpose or by accident.
The modifying of the collection pieces and the misplacing of them is at least is Noel's fault. The Ganglers have their own collection pieces. So I don't know if that's Noel's fault or not.
No. The story goes that the pieces were originally made in the Ganglar world. Arsene Lupin stole them for his own personal collection. And then Dogranio led a raid on his mansion and stole a bunch of them back. And the ones that all of the thieves and the cops have are the ones that were not stolen back.
Got it.
And so now Kogure, working for Lupin, has hired the Phantom Thieves to retrieve the collection pieces. It's a big, huge game of capture the flag.
Flag.
Only now with the mob involved.
Well, it's better than Space Marines. After the opening, we get the episode title, Friend or Foe, Are You On Board? Noel arrives at the GP police station, and the Pet Rangers are all upset, and Hilltop tells everyone to calm down. Tsukasa points out that they think he's a spy. When asked why, they say it's because he gave the thief. Keijiro points out that it's because he gave the thieves the train collection pieces in the last episode, not knowing if they'd give them back, knowing how dangerous they are. Noel points out that he can't answer any of their questions because of a matter of confidentiality, since his mission and orders are different than the PatoRangers. But he points out that he is trying to use the collection pieces to serve humanity, and that he will create equipment to defeat the Ganglers. Hilltop stops the line of questioning, and Keijiro points out that to Hilltop that he can't trust Noel in battle, and that's dangerous. At which point, Jim alerts them to a Gangler. Keijiro is overly angry, and they leave. Kairi gets a call, and it's Noel pointing out the Gangler, and that the police are on their way. After some cuts between them, asks if they are on board.
Yay! I like the framing of this phone call, especially what we learn about it later, which was very interesting, and a good example of a twist, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, very true. And oh my god, just as a subtle detail, I love both of his outfits. The thief and the cop both just work so well for him. And I can understand the PatoRanger's hesitation. Thank God for Hilltop. But, this is a point of him gaining trust on both sides. However, the results may end up is up in the air, but we'll get to that later on, of course. For now, though, I did like the phone scene as well. That was very clever and an excellent twist. So, props to the director and props to Noel.
Phone scene got me because I didn't even realize there was kind of a cut there. And as for the PatoRangers not trusting him, they ask the important questions just straight up. Hey, what happened to those collection pieces you confiscated? And if you're in with the thieves, then do you know their identities? I was wondering how we would handle it, and just saying, I can't tell you because my orders are different. It's a good excuse because it works, but at the same time, it's also, the most bland, we can't trust you excuse. Vashi?
It helps if I unmute. This is, like you said, it's a very bland excuse because it literally, all it does is be the I can't trust you. Which leads to some, to further into the episode. But it's the easiest explanation for him to give. Especially considering the fact that he was sent by HQ. He was sent by High Command. Obviously he's going to be there for other reasons beyond, hey, you need to help them. I enjoy his cop outfit, by the way, because it reminds me of Deca Break in SPD.
Oh, hey, fireworks are going off out my window if people can hear that.
I hear a little bit of banging. I love both outfits, though. They're gorgeous. Apparently, they're selling versions of both of his outfits on Premium Bandai, and I'm like, I just know Japanese sizes will not have a chance of fitting me.
I just don't have enough money.
Both reasons why I didn't get the Q-Ranger jacket yet.
Yeah, I don't have enough money to. I just bought the Genius Full Ball from Build, and that's going to be the last Toku toy I buy for a long while. I also have limited space.
With the phone scene, I didn't see the cuts the way, because going back to watching for the notes, I'm looking a little bit more deeper into what's physically going on in the scene. So the first time I watched it, I didn't really see the cuts. It just seemed like the way they would normally cut it for this back and forth type of thing. So going back and watching it, it's one of those hey, now it makes sense why it looks the way it does. Whereas normally you would just oversee it and then it goes back and then you realize the cut's going back to it. So it was a nice touch because the way they timed it worked perfectly for the way everything goes down now versus the way everything goes down later, and it works both ways. Um, anyways, it switches scenes to Gabato finishing up his work, and he points out that once the teeth route works its way into the dam, it will break. As a very, very dumb power. Personally. The Power Rangers show up and Keisatsu change and start fighting. The Lupin Rangers are overlooking him from higher on the dam, and Tuma points out that they can't trust him, but they can use him. They Kaitou change and join the fight, and Gabato calls out Potamen. During the fight, Kei-chan asks how they found out about how they found about the Gangler, and Kairi says it's a secret in a very sing-song manner because if that helps anything. They start going after Gabato, but he turns to steel, and every attack does nothing and actually hurt those attacking him. Gabato points out that it's his collection piece, and in a bragging manner, it gets stolen. He gets confused by this, and Kairi points out, well, you were just standing still. The fighting continues until Goody shows up, and Keiichiro grabs him, and it becomes U-Ranger, and they defeat Gabato, and the safe flies off. And they chase after the thieves who have taken off. Gosh shows up to search for the safe, can't find it, swaps out her collection pieces, and I guess it does like the radar sonar thing over the water, and is very, very unhappy about the fact that it is in water. Thoughts?
The fight was good. Of course, the fight later on is really, really good. We've already kind of established that certain Gangler, including Gauche, have 2 collection pieces. I don't think Gauche's will melt if she goes near water. I just thought she was like, ugh, it's an inconvenience. I have to get wet. So I don't think it's actually that plot important.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could say that. I will agree with you on the power thing, though, but it's not just a dumb power, it's a dumb plan. How are you gonna claim the land if it's fucking flooded? Where's the... And, I mean, the giant toothbrush thing, it was very stupid, if I'm gonna be honest. I was more focused on the Lupin Rangers and the Power Rangers, of course, and, Kairi stealing it while he was in a standstill, of course, and... Like we've been saying, I think we can all agree the next fight is going to be just a touch more interesting.
I really enjoyed this fight because after Kairi steals the collection piece in the most hilarious way he could have, they all, both teams just start unintentionally working together to finish off the Ganghar. And it is beautiful. Also, it was amusing to see Gush show up after the fact, and she doesn't know where the safe landed because she jumped the gun a little bit.
That was a nice touch. Because I like the fact she just shows up and goes, "Where's the safe?"
Wait, what? It's normally right here.
Yeah, where'd it go? But yeah, the fight scene was actually really good because this is one thing I like about Sentai specifically, is especially with the crossover movies and stuff like that, which you get 2 different teams in a fight together, usually on the same page by this point. But you can see the distinct style of each Sentai. Like the way they fight. It's like SPD fights different than Gokaiger does. So if you see them on screen fighting each other, it's a distinct style change. It doesn't all look the same. And they do a really good job of it here, because even though they're all working together, they still, the Lupin Rangers still have more of a flourish to the way they do all of their stuff. It's more fluid, more flowy, whereas the Pat Rangers are typically more strategic, militarized fighting. It's done excellently. It's one of the things I like about this show, having two different Sentais. The Lupin Rangers end up running to Noel, who is wearing his thief outfit. And they begin talking about the collection piece, and the Pat Rangers show up and see them from a distance talking to Noel. K-chan points out that he is feeding info to the Lupin Rangers. Noel says that it is time to pay the tip fee for their information, and transforms into Lupin X and begins fighting the Lupin Rangers for the collection piece. Kairi asks what's going on, and Umika says that she thought he was on their side. Noel says he was, but now he's a thief who steals from other thieves, and they continue fighting. With beautiful camera work, I might add. Kairi scores a good kick on Lupin X, driving him back, and he changes into Patron X, saying he cannot lose here. And they continue fighting, and Noel ends up with a collection piece, and Kairi points out that he's very underhanded for a cop, unlike another cop he knows. And Noel says it's for a better future.
I will second you. The camera work in this was amazing, and the whole fight scene was amazing to watch, especially the big swoopy shots going this way and that, and all of the cool stuff they used for that fight alone. It looked really, really good. It actually looks better than most Kamen Rider build fights at this point. So I was really entertained.
I'll try not to start a cat fight about the build thing, but yeah, I have no negatives about this fight. It was so much fun. I love every second of it. And considering what we know now about it, it makes it even better in my eyes. And honestly, like you guys were saying about the fight style, it goes for X too, because you can honestly see the drastic change in fighting style when he swaps. Like, with Lupin X, he's starting to take more chances. Like, he's heavily armored. He's, like, you saw, he was a tough bruiser as Lupin X. But now, as Patron X, when he swaps, he's doing park all over the place. He's zipping all. It's insane. It's like, when he's the two different halves, he's the opposite fighting style. Like, the Pat Rangers are obviously much more heavily, a bit more bulkier, not too much, but enough that you can see a drastic change. It's like, and they're very straight and serious. But the Lupin Rangers, of course, are more agile. They're not quite as heavily armored, but they still get the job done. But now with X, it feels like he's turned that on its head and given one to the other. And that's so much, it's such a nice contrast. And like I said, I have no negatives about this. I had so much fun.
What I also really love about this is Noel throws a wrench into the system here. Like, the series had pretty much been the same since it started. The two teams were actually getting used to each other. They were getting accustomed to the pattern they were falling into. Noel comes along and he mixes all that up. He is a wild card that neither side really knows what to do with, and he's going to start changing things for the show. And just this fight here shows one of those ways. Like, if he turns on either team, he can do it by himself. He knows what he's doing and he can handle it, regardless of what we find out later.
It's done very, very well and very subtly. Like, this is the easiest way to point that, because, well, yes, he's working both sides. Like, well, how do you take care of the fact of, one of the, because obviously if you look through this from a logical standpoint, he's only truly playing one side. So how do you have it to where he can handle himself against that side when they find out? Because if, say, he's playing the Lupin Rangers, well, the Lupin Rangers are going to turn on him. Well, you give him the ability to basically whoop them with ease. because he does a very, very good job holding his own by himself. Whereas you look at the LupinRangers, who can't do it 3-on-3, and they still make no ground with him really. So to have that character who's at this point overpowered, it works well with the way they have it designed with the two teams. And like you said, right, they were starting to get to fall into the pattern, not so much of working together, but
being used to
dealing with getting used to each other and being able to deal with the fact that they're all in the fights. Yes, it was Keiichiro was starting to get a little bit more understanding of that second or two hesitation to give them long enough to get the collection piece set, because that had started to take form. Versus how he was at the start, where he was just, let's blast him away and be done with it. And the same thing with the LupinRangers are getting used to just, well, at least here's somebody else that can take care of the giant monster. You know, they were getting used to it, and now you have Noel who's more or less bringing the focus on the fact that these two teams are so drastically different. And the fact that, from a logical standpoint, they shouldn't be working together because it's cops working with criminals. That's just not how that's supposed to work. So it's drawing focus back to that. So it's a nice change from the way it was headed, which was still amazing. But this shakes it up a little bit. And like King said, having X's two forms its fighting styles being flipped. So instead of it being his Lupin side that's all fluid and agile and all that, it's his PatoRanger form. And his LupinRanger form is the more military style, you know, for lack of a better term, striker fighter, you know, rather than the standard Lupin. And it's done very, very well, and I love it. Gabuto then shows up giant, and because I guess everybody just forgot that this happens. And Noel gives the PatoRangers the trains and asks them to fight with them. Keiichiro is still kind of on the fence, but Tsukasa and Tsukuya agree, and they summon the trains and start fighting Gabuto in vehicle form. Keiichiro gets irritated about it and ends up launching his vehicle as well. And they continue to fight him in the vehicle form. Kei-chan launches Goody, and they form Pat Kaiser trains. X does a very quick low blow, which that just looked like it hurt. And then Gabuto tries to rot Pat Kaiser, but they electrocute him instead. And then they finish him with the lightning train finisher, which I've missed the name of.
Spark something blast.
But and then the mechs unassemble and the PatoRangers leave. That's it for the mech fight. It was a very unimpressive mech fight, but it was still funny.
The mech fight was alright in general. I am still looking forward to the time when Noel's vehicles inevitably become their own mech. That's gonna be cool.
Oh yeah, based on the previews, I'm looking forward to seeing that thing in action.
The two-sided emperor. Now this is gonna be fun.
Does anybody else have anything to say about this fight?
The mech fight was rather quick, though I did like seeing thunder fire used on their own. Because you gotta remember that these are more than just pieces of a greater machine. They can fight on their own. They have their own unique thing. I wonder what Fires would have done, though. Sakuya didn't think to use his for some reason. Also, X got a crotch shot on the monster. Can you say cut out of Power Rangers?
I can say that.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about censorship here. Honestly, my favorite thing about this mech fight, despite the fact that the full mech fight is very, very short, is the fact of it reminds you that these vehicles can fight in base form, because we've only truly seen that in the first episode. Beyond that, it's been Pat Kaiser and Lupin Kaiser. So having it fall back a little bit to remind us that each individual mech can fight, has its own powers and stuff like that, I think is very well, and it balanced well with it being a very short Kaiser fight. So I think that was well done. And then, yes, that was an awesome low blow. Ric Flair would have been proud. Back at the police station, Keiichiro extends his hands to Noel. Noel starts to shake his hand, but stops and says that he will do things his way. Keiichiro says that he has faith in Noel's resolve to fight for peace. And they shake hands, which turns into a strength battle. Very, very awkward strength battle. Mainly because
of course, since it's Kei-chan.
Mainly because halfway through, Kei-chan starts laughing in a really creepy manner and then stops. And continues the strength fight. Back at Bishojura, Kairi is in pain and says that Noel doesn't know how to hold back. Tuma points out that it helped them to fool the police. It flashes back to Noel calling Kairi earlier in the episode and giving him the plan to fight them to gain the trust of the cops. Umika asks if they can trust him, and Tuma says he's just glad that it lowers the chance of the police destroying the collection pieces. Kairi says that they can't trust him, but they will use him. That's all they can hope for with Noel. Thoughts before the final scene?
That was a brilliant twist, and ooh, so that's what happened. That's cool when I first watched it, and I still think it's cool. Also, it'll be really funny to see Noel get up in Keiichiro's grill some more. That'll make for some good comedy.
Yeah, I really like the idea of him interacting with both teams and just being himself, because don't get me wrong, I like it when the Lupin Rangers and the Pat Rangers interact outside of suit, because that's a whole other side. But that's the thing, the Lupin Rangers act entirely differently than they would as thieves. But Noel doesn't have to. He can be himself with both sides, so that's a lot of fun for me. And like I said, of course, Kei-chan would start a strength fight, but that's sort of within his character, so I'll let it slide. And, I can understand the trepidation the Lupin Rangers have, but the conversation they had and what happens at the very end brings up a theory. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has it, but I will talk about it when we talk about the last scene. All in all, I really like this.
The whole strength battle, I didn't understand what was happening at first until Kei-chan started scrunching his face up. And I realized, oh, he's struggling to squeeze their hands. As for the reveal, that got me. I had a feeling that Noel was just staging a fight to gain the police's trust. I didn't think the Lupin Rangers were in on it because they played along way well. Even Umika.
Right, and it was done very, very... Because, if you watch it without receiving, then you see what would really take place if everything was real. I think if you watch closely, the only part that is a dead giveaway about it is it's not until the Pat Rangers show up that Noel switches. Granted, they don't really talk much before they get there, but nothing gets said by Kairi or Noel until they show up.
I noticed it the second time I was watching, but the first time, nope.
Right. If you're watching it the first time, it 100% looks entirely legit as if this was what Noelle had decided to do and didn't let anybody know. So the fact that this is how that it was planned out puts, more credibility into the Lupin Rangers being able to put on a show to alter the perception of, in this case, the PatoRangers or whoever else they may be around. So it's a very, very well done. And the fact that Kyrie points out that, yeah, no, we're not going to trust them, but we'll use them. It's a nice point. I also did want to point out that it was Noelle that started the strength battle. Because he did, because he shifted forward and put his arm behind his back, the way he does when he's, and then Keiichiro started doing it. That's when he started scrunching his face up.
When he put his arm behind his back, I was looking at his hand to see if he was like crossing his fingers or something.
I kind of expected that.
I think that's more an American thing, though.
Right. After all this, Noelle is seen walking down the street with the collection piece in hand. Kogure appears from behind a pole mid-stride and tells him that he did fine work. Noelle smiles and goes to give Kogure the collection piece, but pulls it away at the last second before saying, "First, let's talk." Episode end.
It's very interesting. It's quite clear that Noelle doesn't trust Kogure entirely, so it'll be interesting to see if he knows something about Kogure, if Kogure knows something about him, and what their dynamic is. I am especially looking forward to learning more about Kogure and what his deal is.
Well, I have a bit of a theory about that, and this is, I'm going to admit, it's a bit of a left field, but we know that he's working with the Lupin family. We know that he's working with GP. But when he was about to talk to Kogure with the piece, that got me thinking. Just by some mystery we still have nothing to go on about, what if the Lupin Rangers aren't the only ones who want to wish? But because it's Noelle, he's finding different workarounds. I don't know, I guess he's thinking that maybe if I study them and I can figure out how to modify them or figure out how they work, maybe I can get the wish faster, something along those lines. Is that completely out of right field or what?
That's actually a really interesting theory.
It's interesting.
I actually do like that theory.
He's secretly a bit more impatient than the others. I was going to say that we finally see Goody and Kogure in the same room together, and Goody freaks out, but we don't get any indication as to why he doesn't like Kogure. All we get is Noelle is there to comfort him. So I'm wondering if this conversation has something to do with that. Because maybe Kogure is a ganglar, Noelle knows about it, and he's like, hey, I need to talk to you about this.
Like, I mean, because it's already been established prior to this that Goody has an unexplained fear of Kogure. Anytime he gets mentioned, he would bail. That's how it started out to begin with. So for him to freak out and it not to bother Noelle makes it seem like Noelle is very much aware of whatever it is with Kogure. So with the theory of him like Ghosh being Kogure, which again would explain him just popping up places, it works out really well because it would basically be him playing all three sides. Even if Ghosh is, not really working for Lupin, or she's working for Lupin and playing, police informant, it would work. The only issue that would come down to is if she's just playing, gauche, and she's really just a criminal, and she's not being like an informant or anything else like that, then why is he collecting the collection pieces and stealing them in the book? It would add a whole another template into what that's doing. Is it just teleporting them back to their dimension, or what would that be doing if Gauche is Kogure? Because they've already pointed out that the collection police pieces are not human. That got pointed out to us by Destra. So the fact that humans can use them is a problem.
The book does seem to be some sort of containment for the pieces. What if, first off, how did the pieces get stolen if they have a book to hold them in? So the book is probably something recently made. What if, thinking that Koguri is a ganglar, the book is to hold all the pieces together so that they can all be put into a single safe at the same time?
It's not a bad idea.
I like that idea.
I mean, from a security standpoint, that's a dumb idea. Mainly because, hey, you're allowing, if somebody steals from that safe, then they have the entire collection.
But the idea would be, if they have every piece of the collection, then they should be too strong to be stolen from, right? Well, they're wrong, but
Okay, I see actually what you're meaning now. My brain went literally put them in a safe in my house.
Oh, no, like the ganglars.
Not into the
like,
gangler safe.
Gosh puts them in her safe, and she has the invincibility that we just saw in this episode. She has invisibility that Phoenix used. She has the the lightning power from the Antler one.
Like, I mean, it would actually make sense that if say she's full gangler, then that's her collecting all the collection pieces either for the person who doesn't use them.
Oh, no, wait, invincibility wasn't a collection piece. His collection piece was just cutting wind or whatever.
Sorry, I should not have laughed at that. That was dumb to laugh at. But then if that's the case, it would still work out for her, because if she is playing villain, then she could be collecting them all to either give to the gangler who doesn't use collection pieces, or to give to Dogranio to use.
Which Dogranio doesn't care for them because he's retiring.
Right.
If Gosh is all about Dogranio, and she's all about serving Dogranio, then she's only going to trust those with someone she is willing to serve after him.
Right, which would at this point be herself, or I would say Zamigo. But Zamigo has already pointed out he has no need of them.
So, and she's not going to give them to Destra because she has no fondness for him.
Having Dogranio use them actually would work to me better. Because we don't know what all the collection pieces do. One of them could revitalize him.
It is true. I could see this ending.
Wait, set up because he doesn't have the collection pieces.
I could see this ending in a result of, like, she offers him every single collection piece as a tribute of, don't retire, stay the boss, you're the best. Notice me.
Notice me, senpai. Pretty much. That would be my theory for that. But, alas, we have to wait for further into the series to find out.
Yeah,
I really hope next episode... Something like that
wouldn't happen until, like, the 40s.
Like, I'm really hoping that we at least get some little tidbit at the start of next episode.
Which is shaping up to be just, like...
Which is shaping up to not have anything to do with this conversation.
Yeah, It's looking like filler, which is sad.
No, it's...
But it will be a good day for a certain part of the Toku community.
It's not necessarily filler. However, it seems like we might not get an answer to this conversation.
Maybe not, but we will get an answer to something.
Uh,
For those who have
I'm
seen the
not
entire
saying it. I'm not saying it.
spoiler warning for the next 30 seconds. Ship alert next week.
that was so
Ship
far less
alert.
than 30 seconds.
Whatever. That people will tune in at the last 30 seconds.
And I have no idea what we'll be saying at that time.
No idea. Probably wrapping it up. um, Overall thoughts on the episode?
Really good, really entertaining. I loved the character dynamics. All in all, a great episode. It feels like we'll be focusing on Noelle for maybe a while, and I am perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I had so much fun with this, and I know damn well for a fact that if Noelle is gonna be on the screen at any point in time, you will keep me tuned in and rewatching for a long time.
Yeah, this was a great episode. I look forward to seeing how Noelle continues to mix up the show and mess with the formula.
Yeah, I love this episode. The dynamic shifting actually really, really well. Because, like I said prior to this, we're speculating on this being a single person for the additional Rangers. Like, it works well as a way to draw out the police and the Lupin Rangers working together, but it also at the same time it facilitates the start of them working together, because this is one of those, it works both ways. This isn't going to be detrimental to them working together in the future, because it'll help it down the line, because you have somebody who's playing both sides. You have that bridge, but at the same time it can draw it out, because now currently we have them working as a wall between the two. So it works out really well.
We were talking about how they were starting to get used to each other. I just realized this episode, the cops didn't even try to arrest the thieves until after the Gangler was defeated.
Right. But like I said, like they're starting to even with that. It's like, I think it was more of them understanding that they were, for lack of a better term, overpowered. Between the Gangler and the fact that what his collection piece did obviously wrecked them until it got stolen. Then it was just one of those, hey, they're there, and then once the monster was defeated, they tried to chase him down, because I think for them, they're starting to realize that's probably the best time to try to take him out, instead of trying to deal with that while fighting a monster.
Oh yeah, let the thieves take the collection piece first, and then the monster becomes easier to deal with, and then arrest the thieves and take the collection piece back.
Right. From a strategic standpoint, that's the smartest thing to do.
The police have no concern for the collection pieces at all. They have the ones they can use, and they can take the other vehicle ones from the thieves, but other than that, they don't even need them.
Right, because as far as they know, they can't be used by humans, so they're irrelevant. I think that's why Keiichiro got so mad at him giving the thieves the vehicles, because the vehicles can be used.
Yeah. And then he calls him out, like, you should have known they wouldn't give those back. Even though, like, he probably didn't see X just straight up take them back, I guess.
Right.
Or maybe he was just trying to make a point of, like, you had to take them back.
Right. I mean, it works really, really well, regardless of how long this plays out for him being the block between the two, before they switch him to being the bridge between the two. Because if this goes on for the entire series and they don't actually fully team up, I will be highly disappointed.
Even if it's like a temporary truce at the end, and then they go to chasing each other afterwards.
Right, like just like have it be for like the last, if need be, just have it for the last arc.
Oh, speaking of which, you all saw Go Busters, right?
No.
I did.
Repeatedly.
Okay, well, I'm gonna spoil something for you, Henshin. In Go Busters Returns, one of the machines gets sent to a parallel universe where a different Go Busters teams forms, and Jay is also there, and so he joins that team as well. And then the two teams meet up and they work together. And so when they both do their roll calls, Jay runs from one team to the other to do both roll calls on each team. And that's what I'm expecting Noel to do in the final roll call of this show.
Seen that movie, but yeah, I like to see that thing with the roll call and at the very end. Switch, transform, do one side, switch, go to the other side.
Ooh. Or use Goody when he's in thief mode and shoot Noel once, so that way there's two of them and they can have both.
Ooh, cool.
If that can be done, then yeah.
I hope it can.
I also thought about, like, is there a way they could have two... No, that's stupid, but now you just reminded me, yeah, there is a way. So, thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with more Kamen Rider Build, and next week with more LupinRanger vs. PatoRanger, featuring Noel. See you next time.
Bye. Happy 4th.
Adieu, and later, taters.
Happy America Day, everybody. See you guys tomorrow.